All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Raging Atheist. I'm your boy Nakasuchi, and today we have Dr. Josh, Ocean, Suris, and Aaron. And I always do that. And today we're just gonna have a kind of general topic, asking Dr. Josh or talking about, or asking Dr. Josh questions, or talking about whatever anybody wants to talk about. This is kind of my new direction with the channel, guys. I want to try to get away from talking with people I don't like. I want to talk with people I like, have good, honest conversations with people. So welcome everybody.
All right, fine. I'll leave.
Yeah, Ocean, you're the theist in the room, so you're out.
Yeah, that's that. I have to leave now. It's done.
But yeah, welcome back, Ocean, and welcome back, Dr. Josh. Welcome to Erin. It's her first time on the channel. So what's up, guys?
Great to be back. I really appreciate you having me.
I'm excited. Really excited to meet Erin. This is my first time meeting Erin. We've been talking on Twitter last couple days, and so really excited to meet her. I like people that know more about the NIFB than me. So
Dad, I do know more about the NIFB.
Yeah, you know a lot. You have firsthand experience, which is I find awesome. But yeah, I really wanted to
have firsthand experience.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine it. Like, I was a Southern Baptist, and I just couldn't imagine being an IFB. And you think I would be able to, but they're a little weirder than Southern Baptists are, or at least a little more fundamental, I should say, than we were in my community down south.
What part Southern Baptist were you?
Crap, I don't even really remember anymore because I got out of it so young. It was North Carolina. Everybody was Southern Baptist. We was all the same crap. Like you weren't anything but that. It was, I don't know, but I never really got into the crazy aspects of it, and we didn't really go to church. I've spoken about it a lot. We were like Christians that weren't really Christians. We believed, but we'd go to church every once in a while and go home and smoke weed.
Depending on like which part of my life is like what I was exposed to.
Yeah, it's I think mainly because maybe we were born here in the North and moved down there. My dad seems to be a lot more Southern Baptist now than he ever was when we were growing up. So and hates my atheism. He loves me and he accepts me, but just does not like that I'm an atheist. Does not like it at all. But yeah, I was hoping to kind of start with Ancient Aliens, Dr. Josh, because we never really got into it, and I know Megan put out a really good video.
You're gonna trigger me.
Yeah, we're gonna get you going, Ocean.
Yeah,
I don't really.
Ancient Aliens is like one of those. Ancient Aliens is one of those things that just like pisses me off.
Me too. Like what makes me mad is it's a good idea, and like I could see like somebody writing a really fascinating fictional novel based on the idea. But as Megan pointed out in the video, and as I've researched it a lot over the years, because at first I was really into it, it's just not really accurate. Like the information that they're portraying to you isn't real information. It's what I would call like. What's the Kellyanne Conway quote? Alternative facts. So I'm interested in hearing your take on it, Dr. Josh, and Ocean. Since we're going to trigger you, I really want to hear.
I don't know. I can give my opinion about Ancient Aliens before we get into it if you want, but or we can wait till we get into it and I'll get triggered. But.
All right, yeah, we'll get into it and let you get triggered. It won't be the Raging Atheist.
Now I want to get. I just want to go ahead and get my opinion out of the way.
All right, go for it, man.
Sitting on it. So, my thing about Ancient Aliens is like what I think that ultimately crediting things like pyramids or all these like great achievements from ancient peoples to aliens is dismissive of the intelligences of ancient cultures. And it's suggesting that there's no way humans could have done this on their own. It has to have been aliens. Like that's kind of the premise of the whole fucking thing. And I find it to be like like, oh no, humans couldn't do this on their own because humans back then were just stupid. You know, that seems to be the conclusion, and that's something that really I think that's incredibly dismissive of ancient cultures. I think it's obvious that they did achieve these things, and furthermore that we've even advanced since then with a lot of these things. So, you know,
I agree totally with what you just said.
You know, my spiel.
Like when I think of ancient aliens or when I think of God and gods and I think logically, all right, so if I don't believe in the supernatural, of course I'm an atheist. So if there were gods, like if these stories are true, then I would have to think along the lines of, you know, terrestrial beings that came down from the heavens and were interpreting. They wouldn't have words like we have today. So they're just interpreting things that they're seeing. I think rationally it makes sense. But when you start throwing in, you know, like what Ocean is talking about, how, you know, the ancient Egyptians couldn't possibly build those pyramids. I'm like, well, and I'm fairly certain your guest today could probably attest. Like, don't we have records of that?
Yes,
like, you know, we have detailed records of how they did what they did, and it's just ludicrous to even suggest that they couldn't do it. You know?
It's actually kind of annoying.
Yeah, it's really annoying. And what's annoying is that people believe it. You know, that's what's annoying.
The thing about the gods, as far as like, as my understanding is that advancement and technology and achievements like that were seen as in celebration of the gods, and that in part were credited to the gods. But it wasn't like the gods came down and pushed things around for them. It was that humanity is achieving things, and that is the glory of the gods. That's the understanding that I've seen. I know there's some stories in which the gods hand things to people or whatever, or that their knowledge is gifted. Like, for example, Odin with writing. Writing comes from the gods in a number of stories. But it's also something that, like, with achievements like the Great Pyramids, these are things that humans built with tools that humans innovated. And while they may give credit to their spirituality in the journey that they took in order to make these things, it's still human achievement. So it's not like, I don't know. That's
yeah.
It's a subtle. It's a lot of like hair splitting, but I think that the direction that Ancient Aliens people go to it, that it just fully removes the human agency from the whole conversation and any human achievement from the conversation, and dismisses the achievements and intelligence of civilizations like Egypt, which is actually incredibly advanced and complex for its time.
Yeah, and to me, it's just another way to try to dismiss evolution and all of the advances we've made in that field of science. I mean, if you think that aliens came and did everything, then why do we have all of this evidence of evolution? Why do we believe in evolution? And a lot of people that believe in evolution actually take stock in this ancient astronaut crap.
I haven't seen it in the ancient aliens seem to be used against. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm sure that it does. I'm not hugely familiar with the ancient aliens conspiracies. I just kind of know the basic idea, and I saw like a couple episodes of it on History Channel.
A few of them. You know, I haven't seen many of them.
I'm sure Dr. Josh is way more familiar with the concept than I am, but I don't know how you would use it against against evolution. The main thing that I'm familiar with it being used with is like technology or lost civilizations, or
I've seen it.
Atlantis and that kind of stuff.
I've seen it used in congruence with evolution, usually by saying that like ancient aliens came down and like guided the course.
We lost your mic, Suris.
Aaron, why did you mute me?
Shit.
Why did you do that?
Right, you're back.
I was trying to not get the.
Aaron's being a tech troll.
Oh my god! Well, if you don't want it to be double, then you mute the other person. You mute your mic as they're speaking, and then I mute my mic as you're speaking. But you don't mute my mic as I'm speaking. Oh my god! Anyway, what I was saying is usually with the ancient aliens thing, what I see in congruence with evolution is that like ancient aliens came down and guided the course of human evolution.
Yeah. I haven't actually seen anything where it goes against evolution, but like I would think that if you think aliens came down and did everything, that's kind of like thinking the same thing as a creator God came down. And I have seen like they have went a lot further. Like Von Daniken, I don't think it was him, but like one of them actually went on to be. They're saying like there's proof that the planet was terraformed by aliens and all this crap, and I'm like, proof what? Where you should, yeah, I don't know. Like, but like Ocean, I haven't really seen it too much. I just find it to be a ridiculous idea. It fascinates me that people believe, you know, it's one of the things that really fascinates me is why do people believe the things they believe? You know, how can they not see that Donald Trump tells a million lies a day? But people really don't see it. Like they really believe he's an honest. Like I just don't understand why people believe these crazy things. Like how they can believe it. Ancient Aliens is one, and me and Dr. Josh never got to talk about it because I was actually watching Megan's video and started commenting, and we got into this discussion, and I made him watch a very vulgar video of mine.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, I didn't. I forgot how vulgar it was until after I watched it again. I'm like, holy crap! I sent that to Dr. Josh.
So, Dr. Josh, which ancient aliens do you believe in?
Well, I would say any and all. I mean, I think the ones that we kind of come into contact with on our channel, you know, are the ones that ancient Mesopotamia, and so you know, Zechariah Sitchin really dove into trying to explain. Of course, he went into Egypt and into the the land of Canaan, but so much of what he did is predicated on a misunderstanding, conscious or unconscious, of Sumerian and Akkadian texts. And so, because that's what we do on our channel as a Suriologist, we were able to go through some of the things that he said about, you know, this particular Sumerian word means X. There aren't as many people as you might think that know Sumerian. And so it's it's more difficult, I think, for the average person to try to come away, you know, with at least a critical understanding of what it is that he's arguing. So Megan and I did at least 2, maybe more, hangouts, or not hangouts, book clubs, where we went into sort of debunking some of the major premises that he holds, so or that he argues from. So. That's what I primarily deal with. Honestly, I hadn't had any exposure at all to ancient alien theory until I didn't even know who Zechariah Sitchin was until I had graduated. So I don't know if that's good or bad.
I didn't know who he was until I was a few years ago. But my first exposure to him was through the website ZechariahStitchinsIsWrong.com, I think.
Oh, Michael Heiser. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's Heiser. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So like somebody sent me that site and was like, this is a good debunking of the crap that Stitchin does. And I wasn't convinced by any of the crap that Stitchin does anyway, so I didn't spend a lot of time on it. But you know, a buddy of mine that was equally frustrated with the whole ancient aliens thing was just like, you know, this is a thing. It's stupid. and I was like, my first exposure to it was that. So I guess like I can count my lucky stars.
Yeah. The thing is, I think. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
My first exposure was during my internship, and I was like, "What? No." And then I just kind of looked at my mentor and I was like, "What?"
Yeah, it kind of blows my like. I like the idea, but like I said, I like it as a fictional idea. There's just no reality to it. You know, if you can show me like you would think like Dr. Josh, all right, so one of their main premises is that the Anunnaki were gods of the Sumerians and that they came here to get gold to fix their atmosphere. Like somehow gold is going to fix an atmosphere. Don't understand it. And if they did that, then why haven't they come back for more gold? Why haven't we seen them again? Like why don't people's skeptical parts of their brain just take over and dismiss these foolish ideas? I just don't get it.
Well, see, I think that's one of the. So there are a couple of things here that are difficult. One is that talking about Dr. Heiser's channel. I mean, website.
Yeah.
One of the things that it's an excellent website, and I think he makes very good arguments. Part of the problem, though, is he's a Semiticist, right? So he studied under Michael Fox, and so he knows Hebrew and Aramaic and other Semitic languages very, very well. But I think, as I understand it, I think he's self-taught in Akkadian. He's definitely self-taught in Sumerian, which is really, really admirable, right? I think it's fantastic that one does that. And I have a Sumerian course on our channel that I put together, and we're in the process of getting my book edited on Sumerian grammar for the layman. So, I mean, I'm all for people learning Sumerian on their own. The problem is that in order to really, it's difficult to understand complex Sumerian on one's own. And
well, it's kind of like how, not to interrupt, but that's kind of like how in English you can know most of the predominantly used words in the English language, but it doesn't mean that you understand the nuance when somebody says something that has like a reference to something from the 50s, for instance. Mm-hmm. Like if somebody, as an example, just because this got brought up in a recent live stream, if somebody uses the word gay as a pejorative and someone is reading that sentence and they go, well, they just said the situation's happy. That sentence doesn't make sense, but we know that there's a history where in the 70s that word got used as a pejorative and then reappropriated. Like we know there's a history behind that word, but just knowing the base language doesn't tell you that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what I take from it. It's like, they're taking very broad and general kind of interpretations of what this stuff is really saying, and really like. In order to truly know, I would have to imagine years of study would have to go into truly being able to read these languages. Which, by the way, I do want to actually watch that video you talked about because I'm interested in it.
Yeah, I mean, some of the things are actually, don't require extensive amounts of research. For example, he makes the argument that there's a Sumerian word, and it has, I think, 6 different syllables in it. And he said he breaks down each. For anybody that doesn't know about Sumerian, that seemed like a really stupid thing to say. Sorry. Sumerian. It doesn't matter. He argues that this word means something, and so he breaks down every syllable in its standalone meaning, and then puts it all together as a sentence. The problem is it's a verbal form. And if you've taken first semester Sumerian, it's just a verb, right? But how many people have taken first semester Sumerian, right? So it's very that would be something that wouldn't require extensive training. But there are other things that I think he makes arguments from literary texts that he'll call a text Sumerian when it's actually an Akkadian. He mixes together all the literature from all the different periods and then still makes fantastic claims about what they actually mean. And so anyway, what we did is I put a presentation together, like a PowerPoint, and then screen shared it. And then Megan and I kind of walked through the PowerPoint and just sort of on some of these major issues, just I would say effectively proved his assertions to be inaccurate. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I thought her video was spot on. I thought she did a really good job. And that's always been my thing with it is it seems like it's designed to get people like me, just normal human beings that maybe like to read or maybe like to think, kind of out of the cuff, off the cuff. And it's really designed to manipulate them with bad history. And to me, as a history lover, it's atrocious. Like I despise it. And then anybody that I know or meet, and if they talk about it, I get really upset and I'll start raging.
Well, and I'll tell you, and then I'll stop talking because I feel like I'm hogging the mic here. But where it gets really dangerous is there's a group that has appropriated this Ancient Aliens idea and melded it from an outsider's perspective very seamlessly with Christianity. And they're called the Congregation of Lord Rael. And
I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, they were on the Non Sequitur show. I had a debate with them, one of their representatives. But essentially what they're arguing, you ask the question, why haven't we seen them? Why haven't they come back? Well, they argue that they have, and that they're actually here now. Right? So their leader, Rael, is actually the Sumerian god Enlil revivified. Right? And he's come back as Jesus. He's come back as
So it's just taking you have a syringe, right? And in this syringe, I have at least 3 milliliters of reincarnation. And then in this syringe, I've got 3 milliliters of compartmentalization. And I've jammed these into Christianity, and then I've like shoved aliens up the butt, and now we've got their beliefs.
Yeah. And to the point that
aliens as a suppository. Yes.
Yes.
I mean, it's. I don't say that I wouldn't say that they've drawn a massive crowd or anything, but they've convinced a group of people to leave the United States, which is picking up on the Book of Revelation and the language there, that apocalyptic genre, and saying we're the new Babylon, or we are Babylon, and so they've moved down to Baja, Mexico.
What numbers are we talking about? What numbers are we talking about?
It's hard to know. I know that I was part of their, it's not Facebook.
Google Plus?
No, it's...
That's as dead as their ideas.
Man, what was it? It's, I'm going to say that it's a German. That's terrible. Anyway, it's like Facebook, but they have a group, and I think there were 90 people.
Okay, that's not as bad as I thought, because this is one of the things that I learned when I was taking all of my sales courses was that the magic number is 1,000. When it comes to wanting to support yourself on any particular thing, the magic number is 1,000. If they hit that, now, granted, it doesn't mean that anything under that is not problematic. You've still got like the Heaven's Gate and Jonestown and stuff. I think were also sub 1,000 movements. But for it to be a thing that lasts for any long period of time, that's the number that they would need, from what I understand of just like support logistics. So not saying that they're a non-issue, because obviously thanks to things like Heaven's Gate and Jonestown, we know that sub 1,000 groups are still issues. But just wanted to get a handle on like possibly how many, how dangerous, and their ability to grow. Because the problem though is once you hit 1,000, and you're able to support whoever's at the top without any extra work whatsoever, as soon as you hit that point, they have growth ability.
Yeah, and I think so. 90 is, I think, the number on this social media group. But they're supporting themselves down in Baja, as I understand it. So it kind of breaks your heart, honestly, because again, if you don't have the ability to critically think through these things, or have the resources and secondary literature or other sources that you can go to check these things, it's very easy to be sort of brought in under this false misappropriation, or using something in such a way that it's very clever. It's very, very clever the way that they do it. So anyway.
I'm going to have to look at them more. It sounds like it would be perfect for my Crazy Cults series. But yeah, I had heard of them, but I didn't know much about them.
If you watch that Non Sequitur show, it would have been 4 or 5 months ago now, I would imagine. But one of their representatives came on. They can't have the main clergy come on, because then they'd be held accountable, because they say things, everything they say ostensibly is prophetic, or at least I think that's how it would be interpreted. So they have this guy that's not part of the clergy, that's the representative, come on to speak. So
yeah, I think it's a good example of how just a bad idea, and not even a bad idea that's really, I don't think it's intended to be harmful in any way. It's fascinating to think about it, but it can just lead to these little movements, like and it's scary that they did move away and they're on their own and supporting themselves. Like we have seen where that can lead, and it's sometimes very, very terrible place.
I mean, the group that you keep interacting with what are you calling him? He who has no soul. I mean, this is a group, as crazy as I'm sure it sounds, and particularly looking at what they do internally, their internal logic is they're out not to do any harm. They're out to rescue. They're out to save.
Well, and, that's I got a death threat in my comment section right after the debate, and the guy couldn't understand why I reported it and why something happened to his channel. I can't remember what he said, and then he starts coming at soccer accounts. He's like, "Hey, I'm just trying to save you. Yeah. I'm just trying to save your daughter." I'm like, "Dude, you threatened me and my daughter."
That's the problem, though, is that typically there's this disconnect between understanding inadvertent harm and understanding intentional harm. The harm that they're giving is almost inadvertent because it's not intentional. The problem is, though, is whether like for instance, if a gun goes off and it inadvertently shot you versus intentionally shot you, were you still shot?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we are now working with the information that harm was done. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Then it doesn't matter if it was intentional or inadvertent at this point.
Yeah.
We're working with the information that harm was done. And that's a thing that that's a thing that gets lost when you're talking to some people like this, is that they don't realize that the things they are doing are harmful. And in so doing, they do not realize that they are the source of the harm. And they will deny that they are the source of the harm because they are not intending to. And that's the problem. Now, granted, there are some points where I would say that they are intending harm and they're just masking. Sometimes there's blatant dishonesty where they're like, no, you should be put up against a wall and a firing squad should kill you because X reasons. We've heard that from certain soulless people. But so sometimes you have to kind of make that choice. Is this somebody who doesn't know and therefore the harm's inadvertent? Or is this somebody who their intentions are there, but they're masking it behind saying, well, I didn't know that it was causing harm. In either scenario, you still have somebody causing harm. So you still have issue, and it's still issue that needs to be taken care of. But figuring out which one's which can help the conversation go forward, because it's much easier to have the conversation with somebody who's inadvertently causing harm and letting them know, hey, just so you know, these are the logical conclusions of your actions. Your actions are leading to the suffering of this many people. These are your fellow people, versus somebody who's doing it intentionally where they've already jumped past the point of being able to logic and reason them out of it.
Yeah. And I think you have to approach those two different types of people in totally different types of ways. And that's, I think, maybe where I went wrong with the NIFB is in my approach with them. And I don't think there's any fixing it. So I'm trying to move on, but I'm never going to give up talking about them just because I see it as it is dangerous. And whether you're in it or not, if you can't see that, then hopefully people talking about it will lead to that place for them. I just really hope that people get out of these cults.
You saw the video I sent about their conference they're having here in June.
Yeah. I wish I could go.
I am one of the he's going to be attending.
Wow. I mean, I keep forgetting you're right down there in the mix of pretty much their power base. Because Anderson's out in Arizona, but the most of the power, I think he's down in Florida, and I know Ben the Baptist is down in Florida.
The private school that I grew up in Florida was started by a Seventh-day Adventist and an IFB person. I did not realize that technically was a non-denominational school, technically, because that's a good way to get more funding, is getting every Christian as opposed to just your particular brand of Christian in. But that's something that I didn't realize until I researched it later and went, wait a minute, independent fundamental son of a crap.
So I'm fairly familiar with Seventh-day Adventist because they pretty much taken over Grand Rapids up here. Are they? But I'm not really familiar with their ideology. So are they similar to NIFB?
A little more apocalyptic. NIFB are a little more let's do things here in the now. because the world that we're in right now is corrupt, and they try to do everything to fix it. But
they believe that Ragnarok is just around the corner.
Seventh-day Adventists are very much the world is going to shit. It's going to be like post-apocalyptic soon. Like they're a little
right. So Ragnarok is coming.
Yes, basically.
Okay, good. Okay, I wanted to make sure that they believed in the right apocalypse.
Yeah, I'm gonna make my daughter watch Ragnarok later.
Yeah, they have that's
a very accurate depiction.
You can call them conventional conservative Christians. A lot of them are young Earth creationists. They believe in the existence of a literal Satan, but there's a few beliefs that they have that are a little different than your standard. When it comes to their lifestyle, they hold the belief that the human body is a temple for God and should be cared for as if it were a temple. So like the Holy Spirit literally inhabits you if you're a Christian, which makes sense to me because that's what I was taught growing up. Was like, hey, don't smoke and drink, because if you smoke and drink, you're gonna make God cough inside your lungs. Like that's I'm not shitting you. So they've also got something called investigative judgment.
So I need to look into him because that Christian vlogger, he's Seventh-day Adventist, and I've talked to him a couple times, and he's supposed to be coming on again. So I really need to become familiar with that denomination, because the one thing I know about him is you can't go to Grand Rapids and have a good time no more.
And no, it's their beliefs are quite. I want to use the word interesting, but it's too boring for that. So,
yeah, I'm gonna have to look into them. Wow, you was able to just spit that right out, sirs. Fascinating, man. I love these conversations. See, I like learning. I like learning about stuff. I just love learning. I like talking about weird stuff that most people just aren't going to really talk about. I did ask Dr. Josh. Dr. Josh, did you find anything for me on the bloodline of Mary?
Yeah, I'm always reticent to move into the New Testament, so if something doesn't jump out pretty quickly in the secondary literature, it's going to take me a little bit of time to actually nail something down. I didn't find anything, but I wouldn't hang my hat on that. I suspect that there are some ways that people have developed the text or have made arguments from the development of the text from a text critical standpoint, that they would make the argument that this one in Luke or this one in Matthew is actually supposed to be getting at Mary's bloodline. But I didn't. I mean, I will say I didn't have time to look an awful lot.
Boy, it don't take too much time. Like I had a conversation with Jim Majors about it, and he pretty much validated my argument. And I, from what I'm understanding, this is a very old argument. I think I told you about the argument. It's pretty much that, with the Immaculate Conception, the Bible is very clear. It goes out of its way to say that Joseph is of the line of David, and I can't find where it says anywhere that Mary is. So by Immaculate Conception, Jesus couldn't have fulfilled the major prophecy of being born to the line of David. And me and Jim had a pretty big, long conversation, and I feel somewhat validated. So yeah, I wouldn't look too hard. I just kind of wanted to see, like, all right, am I just completely wrong, or is there actual merit to the argument?
No, I mean, so here's what I did. Kind of, this is where I left off. There's a position, at least that I think a vast minority would take, that would say that understanding, and I can't remember which one, but one of the descendants should be read differently as an individual, which would then tie it into Mary's line. But I think don't hold me to that, but that's where I left off.
Yeah, I think I remember, and I might have mentioned it to you in our correspondence, but I think I remember a part in the Bible where it says that Mary was Joseph's cousin. So it would depend on, what side of the family on whether or not she actually shared the blood of David.
It doesn't say that though.
Well, yeah, I can't remember if
Like
it does.
that's
It could
the
be like
second
really wrong.
afterthought. The problem, like, you know, I think we've had this conversation before where my frustration with including Joseph's bloodline is that it doesn't seem to matter where Joseph fucking came from, and like the one that matters is Mary.
But we don't have a documentation for Mary's bloodline.
There's no documentation for Mary, so
yeah, and that's.
But why do we have Joseph though?
Yeah, and that's what I couldn't understand is why is it even talked about really? Because it doesn't matter if the Immaculate Conception is true. You know, that's always been the thing.
That's all it is.
and that's.
I mean, that might be the answer.
Well, yeah, I think I've gotten that answer before. Is that that's just they put all the emphasis on the man, and that's. But I think it's like a glaring hole in the New Testament. That maybe they tried to patch later on, and it just doesn't really work, You
can retcon it and say they were cousins if you want, I guess, but
an Alabama Bible, excellent.
Yeah, I can't remember. I can't even really remember where I read that, but maybe that's what somebody told me, or that Joseph and Mary were cousins. I know Jill has apologized. I got Jill with this argument pretty good.
I mean, here's my thing. If it puts all the emphasis on that Jesus is of the line of David, and y'all can correct me, I'm not very familiar with Christianity, despite being around the new IFB, because I did spend 14 years of my life Wiccan.
Wow, I love Wiccans. I know quite a few of them here.
Okay. Don't love the coven I grew up in.
Well, they're just hippie chicks, and that's what they say.
Hers had some problems. She's talked to me a little bit about them before, and I'm not particularly happy with her coven either.
Yeah, probably. Okay. Different. The Wiccans I know, they're all
trying to say, and you tangentially broke off.
I did.
It's not a comment about Wicca in general. It's a comment about her specific coven. Right. So, anyway.
If they put all the emphasis that Jesus is the line of David and that Joseph was the line of David, but nothing about Mary, but Jesus is immaculately conceived, to me, it's just like they have to put the immaculately conceived because they're trying to hide the fact that there was something premarital going on.
Yeah.
I mean, there's that as an option.
Suris is muted again.
Son of a farting bitch face. Anyway, censor one curse word, say the other one, just because of reasons, I suppose. So that could be a thing, but from what I understand, the Immaculate Conception isn't a method to try to cover up some type of birthing issue. The Immaculate Conception is just there because sex is bad. God cannot be born of something bad. Therefore, we have to find a way to make him come out in a way that's not icky. I think it has more to do with the narrative of having a holy being as opposed to an attempted cover-up of premarital relations. Just me personally speaking.
Yeah, and I know I spoke with Jim about this too, and he backed me up with this because I was like, I remember reading Jewish lore, that quite clear, or it might have been in the Gnostic text, but I think it was Jewish lore that quite clearly said that Joseph was going to actually participate in stoning Mary to death until the Spirit of the Lord came and softened his heart, or whatever weird language it used.
Which would be really weird, considering that it's okay to soften Joseph's heart, but it's okay to it is equally okay to harden the Pharaoh's heart.
Yeah.
Oof.
Or it's okay to stone women to death in the first place, which is something they deny.
I'll be honest. This is a conversation that I had a year ago. The person who actually gave me my first death threat ever was the conversation I had here. But they were Muslim, like radicalist Muslim specifically. And when I was having the conversation with them, this person's name is Kublai. So if any of my watchers from like the first 100 subscribers are here, they know that name. He changed his name to Musa about 6 months later, but it's all the same freaking person. when we brought up the stoning issue, I had mentioned specifically, okay, well, so stoning is one thing that you advocate for in the case of, say, adultery, for instance. He said, yes, he believes very firmly in that. And I said, okay, so what if it was your sister? His response was, I would be the first one to throw the stone.
See, that's just,
I'm just like,
to me.
Okay, sure, why not? You just, if there's a bridge, please do a jump.
Where do you guys find these fucking people, man?
You know what?
I just.
I think it's when you challenge people's ideology just so much, when you're just so brutal and in their face with it, that they just can't take it. You know, like. But me personally, I'm not going to get so butthurt that I'm going to start threatening people. I don't understand it. I don't understand.
I mean, I think one of the things that we should probably take note of here, and again, I'm in no way a philosopher, but I think particularly dealing with things like slavery, as I have been of late, this issue of morality and whether it is, relative or fixed. I mean, I think that there are certain things that just make it abundantly clear to me, like what we're describing here. I mean, I spent time in Syria at an archaeological dig in 2009, just before the things went awry. And one of the things that happened in the village there where we were excavating was something akin to what you just described. And the idea of us going to them in the strict sense and saying this is immoral, I think it would require defining our terms, right? And saying, what is it that you mean by immoral? Now, do I think it's immoral? Absolutely. But it's, and again, this is getting to the whole heart of the issue, is that do we have this this morality that is fixed and that is determined by one source, or do we have one that is culturally, societally, whatever driven? And I just think that's such an important thing to note, not so much to make a judgment call like, oh, that we shouldn't say that that's immoral, or we shouldn't say that's moral. That's not my point, but to say that this is evidence, I think fairly convincing evidence to me anyway, that morality is not fixed. It doesn't come from this. I know we keep using the word objective, but I don't know that I would use that term.
Well, the term you can use would be ultimately objective, because ultimately objective would mean that there's a fixed source that is above everything else. Objective morality by itself requires that there only be a standard, and that standard could be anything.
Sure.
So, for instance, I say the Bible is my objective standard. For instance, if I were to say that, then yeah, cool. That one book, even though we know when it was written, would be an objective standard. But an ultimate objective would be, a deity would be one there. So if you want a word for that, that's the one you can use.
Yeah, I think that sounds fair.
Yeah, and I think just being able to somehow, like, if people could just see like the results of their words, like stoning people to death. Like, all right, maybe if you're around that and your whole life, it's acceptable. But like most people that think that they would be okay with it, I think if you actually saw it, you're not going to be okay with it. It's a brutal thing to see. I had somebody recently send me a video of a woman being stoned to death. And I watched about 30 seconds of it. I couldn't watch more.
I have a censored version of it. That practice in my welcome video for my channel. Granted, it's censored because, of course, if I don't, then YouTube's going to get on my case. Yeah. But my point is that, like, hey, this is one of the things that I don't like, and it shows part of that. Like, this is one of the things that my channel tackles, is why this is not an okay thing to do. The problem, though, isn't that if people saw this, they might reconsider. The problem is that there are people who have seen and done this and do not reconsider.
Yeah,
therein lies the biggest issue.
Oh yeah, I get attacked because I'm studying the witch trials. I've been talking about the witch trials, and they're like, why is this even an issue for you? This doesn't happen anymore. And I'm like, look at Tanzania. Yes, 2 people were burned 3 weeks ago for being witches. It's happening right now, and just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening right now. And if we're not aware of it,
And in a lot of cases,
the,
you can replace the word witch with pagan.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens in many places. You can replace the word witch with someone from the LGBTQ, and it happens there. You can replace the word witch with someone from a different Christian denomination, and we still see that happen in various parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
We see it across history as well. And that's one of the points that I harp on. I'll be quick. One of the points that I harp on is that, like, in the struggle, one of the things that like pagans can identify with atheists, LGBTQ, etc., is that, you know, there are places in the world in which being who we are is a crime. Mm-hmm. And I've traveled to some places where I have to be pretty low key about my faith, because it's a crime. So, you know, and like that's something that I think is cross relatable. Anyway, go ahead.
Like were I to go to Egypt, I would be sent to jail.
Right, you're a crime.
That is a jailable offense.
Mm-hmm.
Your beliefs are a crime. My beliefs are a crime in Egypt, mm-hmm. I think. Like I was talking with a friend of mine about this, where in many like especially when Abrahamic religions get very intertwined with government, our existence becomes a crime. Mm-hmm. And that goes with atheists, pagans, and LGBTQ.
Yeah, I often say that, like, it's, you know, and I don't want to paint Christians, Muslims as anything that they're not, but we do have history, and you can go back and look at history, and it's very easy to make the same mistakes that were made before. And if you have like a wave of people who, like right now, we have people like Girl Define, MMA Jenkins, people like that are talking about a very real devil that is assaulting every human being on this planet. Well, that's where these superstitious things can escalate into mass hysteria, like we saw in the 1500s and 1600s.
Not even 1500s, 1600s. Just look as far back, at least here in America, look as far back as the 80s. Yeah. When we had the Satanic Panic. Yeah. Look at how much of that occurred and how much of that we are still seeing today. If you look back, Matt Slick, who I'm sure everybody here is at least somewhat familiar with, Matt Slick has articles dating back to the point of the Satanic Panic. And if you look at his articles recently, Pokemon Go came out, 3 years ago? 3 or 4 years ago. And when that came out, Matt Slick released an article that word for word mirrored things that had been said during the Satanic Panic. He said that if you install the Pokemon Go app onto your phone, a literal devil will infest your phone and will take over your body. This is Matt Slick, person who has gone and done public debates. This is a publicly known figure, has said that a real devil will infest your electronic piece of freaking cyber rock.
But you'll be able to catch 666 Pokemon. So,
Dr. Josh has jokes today.
And you know what? Hold on, Matt Slick, Pokemon Go. I'm gonna look up his exact words. Here we go.
And you're right, because you don't even have to go back that long to see violence in our society from Christian sources. Like, you go back to the early 80s, as you're talking about, you can see violence against homosexuals actually occurring. I think his name is Shaun White, I'm thinking of in particular, but you can read like Stephen King's It, where it's talking about that time, and it's using the language that was prominent in that time. And you'd think that you're hearing, you know, he who has no soul speaking, because that was just how everybody spoke back then. So you really don't have to go back to the 1600s. So you're exactly right about that. I just like using the 1600s because Christians don't like talking about it.
I like using recent events because the sting is much more recent. Like there's a common thing I've seen with especially a lot of like really historically literate Christians, when you make an appeal to things like 1600s, or even if you make an appeal to like the Crusades, a lot of them, they cringe, but they've already got a plethora of apologetics responses at the ready for when you bring up those topics, because they are very common topics of debate. Whereas for me, I would rather, I'm a person who doesn't try to go, your belief is wrong because here's the epistemological reasons behind why. I can do that. I have done that. But usually I'm going to go the route of, okay, these are the logical conclusions of your actions. These are what the tangible harm is based on what you're doing. And the difference between bringing this is for me, I'm not criticizing your method. You have a method and you want to use it, by all means, just juxtaposing mine for a minute. For me, I like using the more recent examples because those are the ones that people in many cases were alive for. They can go, oh, I remember that. And I can go, yes. And that was a direct result of what? And it's a lot less vague than appealing to history from beforehand.
I think using recent events is a much, like, if you're trying to convince somebody that maybe their ideas are wrong, that is definitely a much better way to do it. Like with the history thing, I just love history. Like I'm really trying to like focus, and I'm taking my time with it because I don't want it to be like an attack on Christianity. Oh, you guys did this back in the 1600s. I better
because that's a lot of like blaming people for the sins of their fathers type of deal. And none of us are about to do that.
What's wrong with that?
Ocean.
I'm more interested in just like kind of sharing. Like my first one's gonna be on Gillis Duncan. Not sure if y'all are familiar with her. She was one of the first witches accused in Scotland, and just more of a human story. Just don't forget these people in history. It's kind of going to be an ongoing thing on my channel, but I want it to be historical. Like I don't want it to be any judgments. Like this is just the history.
Just like these are the brute facts of the situation.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I definitely agree. Like using, like if you're trying to really hit a person, I don't believe in a soul, but for no use of a better word, if you want to hit their soul with it, then you need to hit something that they're going to be able to draw from their memory like this, see it, feel, respond to it. I definitely agree with that.
I just like listening to an atheist talk about hitting people's soul.
I don't like using that word because every time I use it, like, you believe in a soul. I'm like, dude, I'm a writer.
It's like every single time that I say, oh my God, and they're just like, oh my what, Mr. Atheist? I'm like,
yeah, I know.
First of all, that's
I have a response to that.
Yeah, I get that all the time. It gets old. I'm like, it's just an adjective, man.
Tell them language is descriptive, not prescriptive.
I'll say that, and you know what they'll say to me immediately? They'll say, shut up, Steve. The minute I do that, that's going depending on who I'm talking to. If they don't know,
go ahead,
Ocean.
My response is more of a polytheist thing, where it's like, well, why take one of my God's names in vain?
And I would just go, well, I'm not talking about yours, am I?
Right. Well, no, it's like for me, like when I'm talking about when they do that with me, but that's only that's the only really a response that I can do.
Yeah.
So when I say, oh my God, or Jesus, or because I'll be like, Jesus fuck whenever something happens, and sometimes Christians will be like, and I'm like, that's stupid first, but second, if I'm going to be using a God's name as a cuss word, why use one of mine? I can use yours.
It is like my God's name isn't a curse word, but yours literally slaughtered children. That's a curse word. If you want me to start saying by Odin's beard or something like that, I can do that, but it's just it doesn't come as instinctually just because of cultural background. So fuck it. And I don't mind Jesus being a cuss word. It's fine.
I need to go back and watch a lot of your old debates, Ocean, because I've been meaning to have a conversation with you about your polytheism, and we've never really gotten around to it because I just don't know many polytheists, and so I find it fascinating. And
debate me, bro.
Sorry.
I'm not doing debates anymore. Not until I'm ready.
Okay.
And you'll be one of the ones getting me ready. So
yeah, I can do some mock debates with
you.
I'll do some as well. It'll be fun.
Yeah, we'll have fun with. Like, I'm really gonna I'm gonna start learning debating. Right. So I've never really even looked at it before. Suris, when you said the word interlocutor, it was literally the first time I've ever heard of that word.
And that's literally the word for your opposition in a debate.
Yeah. So I'm not in my head. Interlocutor. Yeah, I know what that is. I need to go get a dictionary.
Like affirmative and dissent and.
Yeah. So I just need to learn. I just need to.
Well, affirmative is the white chess piece.
I've talked about this with Suris before, and I've kind of mentioned it. Like I've been so much in my bubble that I just when Modern Day Debate approached me to actually come on their show, I'm like, the first thing I thought was, I don't know how to debate. Like why do you want me on your show?
I had to start looking at debate like a sport instead of a conversation after a while.
Well, that's what I'm gonna have to do.
Something,
it's gonna have to be different than what I do here. You know,
there are many times
when I go
debate,
like if I'm having having a conversation, then it's just a conversation. But if I'm on like Modern Day Debate or Non Sequitur show or something like that, then I need to view it as a sport because there is a competitive nature to it, and there are ways to score points. So, and it's not even somebody who's not aware of the rules that's watching a debate realizes that points are being scored. There's a way to do that as well. So, it's a really deliberate process.
Yeah,
and a lot of people that do it on those shows know about this and do this. So,
Yeah, I'm definitely cognizant of the fact now that, like I said, I was insulated, so I was always just really representing myself. These are things that I've thought and I believed, and I'm voicing them out finally. But now I'm really getting cognizant that it's not that I'm just representing me, but I am representing a community, and that I damn well better be able to do my community proud and not go into these things, half-cocked or ready to bulldoze ahead and really knock somebody down. But
and then you saw the end
points of it,
and then you saw the end result of walking into a place unprepared when you were on Pal's movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sorry, I'll just call him Paldermore. Is that better?
Yeah. Well, dude, I'm gonna have to get I have such a hard time not calling somebody by their name. I'm too decent of a human being, I think, honestly.
You guys mind if I just comment sort of on this? I just want to say I don't know that debating is the only way that you can do that. And I mean, like, I listened to much of that stream that when you guys were talking about the debate that you had with he who must he who has no soul.
Paldermore.
And I mean, obviously, I agree.
I keep calling him he who has no name. I'm like, man, I got really close to Harry Potter there, dude.
That's why I'm just saying
the guy who wants to execute the gays, like that guy.
That dude.
We talked to him on the
who emailed me and texted me like all day yesterday. By the way,
how'd that go?
Yeah, Matt. He is who he is.
Copy that. Okay, so hey, Dr. Josh, what are you saying?
Yeah, I mean, so I agree, obviously, with if you're going to debate, I think it's absolutely essential that you take the. I mean, just like with anything else in life, you take the time to learn to do it. That being said, I don't know that. I don't think you should hold yourself hostage to the idea that you have to debate, right? I'm not a debater, like I'm not. And one of the reasons that really the only circumstance that I found myself comfortable debating is when I have Skylar, and that's very strategic for me because number one, I have MS, which makes it difficult for me to think quickly. It just does. I'm not very light on my feet, I guess, and so it's very easy for me to kind of get lost in what we're talking about and lose my train of thought. So when I have Skylar is the opposite, right? And so he's able to hang with the person as long as necessary. And then I can kind of sit back with my mic muted and think about what would I say here? Oh, they just made a point. Let me look here at the Hebrew text and see if that's accurate. No, it's not. All right, when there's a break, I'll make a comment. I can't do that when it's...
You two play off each other very well. What I've seen in that is that it's usually Skylar doing the debating, and then you come in with reference backup.
That's exactly
which is extremely good strategy. Actually, makes you a good team.
Yeah,
I mean,
it.
I'll say this: like people, there's an individual that I have since blocked, which is like if you've never blocked anybody that's been a troll to you, which I had not, it's liberating. Like I don't see their stupid ass comments anymore. Sorry, that's so mean, but
I know exactly what you're feeling. Like I feel liberated since I blocked
I think there's a word for that, catharsis.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, I didn't have to do it. Like, I wasn't going to. And Megan said, "That's it. Like, this is my channel too. I have to see all these comments. I'm done." And she blocked both of the special people, which I thought, okay, all right, I guess, you know, obviously if you don't want to see it, that's what we should do. But it's such a wonderful thing. But at any rate, that those individuals have been dogging me. Come debate one-on-one, come debate one-on-one. And I have no problem saying here live, nope. Like, the idea of debating somebody one-on-one is anathema to me. I would lose. I mean, I don't think there's any question about it. And the reason that I feel comfortable saying that is because debating is a skill set that I, at least at present, do not have. And I don't feel inclined I don't feel like there's any necessity for me to do that. That being said, the way that I do respond to these things is very similar to what you've been doing, Rage, and that is making these videos, right? So I'll be honest, I don't think that there's a comment or an assertion or whatever that has come out with respect to slavery or with respect to this Numbers 31 video that I just did, where I haven't, I'll say, adequately addressed the issue that's been brought up. However anybody wants to view that is fine. I don't really care. But I feel like my contribution can be very measured. I can really think through my argument. And so I guess what I'm saying is that was very long-winded, and I apologize for it. But,
there's another side to that as well, in that there's a lot of people in the community, and Prophet of Zob was one of the first people to vocalize this, and at least to me, and it makes sense when you think about it, that the modern day response video is basically your more refined version of the debate, because the skill set for the debate is very much, can I be quick-witted? And sometimes, and the idea of the debate is that you're trying to get, if not your interlocutor, you're trying to get your audience either on your side or on the side of truth. You are trying to lead people to some sort of truth, some sort of knowledge. The response video, as much as I have done live debate, I have gone into that arena as well, and I very much enjoy live debate. But the response video feels like a modernized version of that, where instead of having to be very quick-witted, think on your feet, you can listen to the video you're responding to 3, 4, 5 times, make sure that your opponent's position is heard, make sure you understand what they said. Sometimes there's something not in their whole point, but just a single word in their sentence that they said, and you have to pick that little thing apart. And focusing on that little thing in a debate can take away from other more grandiose points. Whereas in a response video, you can go, okay, this sentence has 3 or 4 avenues in which it has to be unpacked for me to deal with it before I can move on to anything else. And then you can take as much time as you need to. And the only people who can dictate how much time your points take to get heard are the people listening to their video. They want to hear your entire point, they'll keep playing the entire thing. If they don't want to hear your entire point, they can click off the video, but they get to listen to the entire point, as opposed to you being constrained to 15 minutes of trying to deconstruct your opponent's gish gallop.
Oh yeah, I agree. I prefer to do the response videos over, and yeah, I think I'm with you, Dr. Josh. Like, I don't really ever want to be a debater. You know, I would much rather take my time and really think about, all right, how am I going to attack this? How am I going to attack that? I do want to learn how to debate. So if I do find myself in those situations, then I'm not going to misrepresent me or an entire community.
No question.
I'm going to do myself justice. And I have great people, Ocean, Dragnauts in the chat, and I'm going to be getting on his Discord at some point tonight, dog. I promise I'm going to try to talk to you. I've just been so busy, but so yeah, like, you know, I don't ever want to really be that, because I do like that response way of going about things, and really being able to, it might not appear with some of my response videos, some of them I'm just trying to be disrespectful, but I like being able to think about my angles, you know, like really take my time and develop the idea and then go at it full throttle. You know?
And I think that's, and then I'll mute again. But yeah, I think you mentioned Dragnaut, and I just watched not all, but most of a video that he just did with G-Man. And you know, G-Man is someone that I've had exactly 1 interaction with, and I hope to have 0 more in the future.
Yeah, I don't want no more with him.
I mean, I wouldn't mind. I obviously wouldn't mind having like an off-air conversation with the guy. I mean, I think that could probably be
he
fine,
doesn't get any better off air.
The thing is that that very well may be true. But
I've had several conversations with him both on air and off air. He doesn't get any better. He's the same on or off air.
Avoid having a conversation with him on or off air.
G-Man is someone.
I've known G-Man for years.
G-Man is someone who, through the course of debate, has become a young Earth creationist. That should tell you how stupid he is.
He's somebody. I kept wanting him to make a video about me. He kept threatening to make a video about me, but he never did.
Yeah, I think it would be a barrel of laughs, if you know what I mean.
I want him to do it.
I'm still laughing about how he got the hell out of my live stream the moment you came on.
That's what happened.
Here, I'm out.
That's Darwin's Deity does that. G-Man does that. There's a handful of people that, like, if I show up, they're gone immediately.
Oh man, to me that was like, I need to go back and just get that moment and make it its own video. Just that moment, 2-minute video. Ocean comes in, G-Man goes out.
He ignores me immediately, rants a little bit, and fucks off.
It was classic, man.
After blocking everybody in the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, I think by the end of the chat, I might have been the only person that he could hear.
But yeah, Dr. Josh, he doesn't get any better. I didn't mean to throw you off, but that's...
Oh no,
we can go back to your point.
I guess what I noticed in that discussion is that, and in the discussion that I had with him, should we call it a discussion, and the one that I just listened to, is, Suris, you talked about, when you're in a debate, you're either trying to convince the audience to understand truth, you want them to understand truth, or you want them to join your side, essentially to win, right? And what I have found just watching him is that they're really consciously or unconsciously, getting the audience to agree about some truthful statement that you've made, and to have, this justified true belief at the end of what you've said is far outweighed by the desire to not lose. And whatever he has to say, whatever he has to focus on that is completely irrelevant, whatever dodges that I actually seems like he's actually very good at it. And again, I'm not a debater, but when I listen to him, he runs up against the wall and he sidesteps it and keeps going. And in a way that, asking the person to repeat what they said, laughing when they repeat it. That's such a stupid thing. I'm not even going to deal with it. Changing the topic, all of these things. But the moment that if he were to make a response video, for example, to the topic of slavery, it would be, I think, detrimental to him to do that, because what would happen is I would then take that video and systematically break down his argument and then say, okay, here's where it's incorrect, and here's where it's incorrect, and here's where it's incorrect. Because you can't beat me in a debate there, because I'm not debating you, right? It's a responsibility. So that's all I wanted to say was, I hear you beating yourself up a lot, and I think that there's a certain amount of introspection and taking stock of, here are my mistakes, and this is the things that I could have done better. And I wholeheartedly agree. But you're a human being that hasn't done this before, and
I do beat myself up a lot because I think I could have handled things better, but I'm very proud of some of the things that happened. Like I said, I just don't think that this is a person that anybody should legitimize. And I definitely didn't want to have some serious debate with the guy again. Been there, done that. I wanted to confront him on his homophobia for everybody to see. You say these horrible, horrible things, and the response I've gotten from a lot of people has made me feel really good about that. But I never want to walk into a situation again, for one, too emotional and not knowing the rules of the game. If I'm going to play the game, I want to know the rules of the game, and that way, then there's no question about what I'm doing. There's still it's hard to explain it, but as a competitive person, like Ocean was saying, I can definitely see that it is a competition. It's a sport almost. And like a sport, you need to be prepared to understand the rules and know how to play that game. So yeah, it's time for me to stop thinking about myself and stop worrying about myself and start worrying about the bigger picture.
And I would just say, and then this I promise will be it, but I would just say, if you're a really good baseball player, don't feel bad that you might not be as good at football.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I would say that like your response videos, the things that you put out when you think things through, I think you're really good at that. And I think I'm not saying for a second that if you study debate that you won't, because obviously I think you will. But I just like, don't beat yourself up that right now you can't play both sports.
I would like to point out that Josh keeps on saying this is the last thing and then I'll stop, as if people don't want to hear your voice.
Yeah, I know. Like I could just like listen
we do
forever, dude.
So like,
God, I wish Dr. Josh would just shut the fuck up.
Aaron hasn't said much.
But no,
I got a message from Dragnot because he said, "Someone please tell Dr. Josh that he's not tried to convince G-Man of anything, or but their only goal is to show people G-Man's broken epistemology." And I was like, I have heard some of G-Man's arguments, and I just sit there and go, "What?"
If you want to have, a dissertation,
do people not know already?
If you want to hear the best example, and I would not recommend doing this right now. 1, it'll destroy your eardrums. 2, don't click away from Raging Atheist video. But
no, never do that.
5 years ago, G-Man made a rap.
I remember this.
Will the rap ruin the fact that I've had my ears corrected? Because I would like to keep my precious brand new ears.
Yeah, a little teaser for what's coming this week. Bethany's new husband tried to rap, and it was horrible.
I guarantee you, G-Man's is what Dragnot is yelling in the chat. No, Suris, no. No, I listened. During the course of us, if you saw me like sitting there chuckling, that was because I had turned on his Dragnot says mute, Suris. No, I listened to his rap, and all I can say is
it's top 40 material. Definitely,
it is.
That's a bunch of number 2.
If I ever needed to have a question as to who G-Man was, this rap is the perfect crash course.
Here's the thing, I don't, because Suris, you know this. I just had my ears corrected. I'm very protective of my brand new babies. These are my babies now, because you spend 2 years of your life not hearing things. You're just like, no, I have my ears back. Give me.
Yeah, you might not want to defile them with G-Man.
Gibbs ears.
G-Man existing is an affront to the human race. But that said,
yeah, I take heat when I say things like that, and I'm purely joking. But like I'll say things like, Matt Powell, is the biggest argument against humanism. Or he makes me it makes it really hard to be a humanist. And people are like, why do you say that? And I'm like, dude, I'm joking. I still love Matt Powell for the human being he is. I just hate him for the liar that he is. But
I have very mixed feelings about Matt Powell, but I think it's because it's like I have very mixed feelings about quite a few NIFB members, because I've met them. In some cases, I've met them before they were the extremists they are, and I'm just like, I feel very awkward.
It does make it hard to still be a humanist,
because it's like my mother, before she was NIFB, was a very loving, sweet, amazing woman, and then went from this to NIFB and completely extremist, completely off the wall. It's like, I still love you as my mother, but I hate the fact that you're like this, so I have very mixed feelings with some NIFB members.
That's where you have to tell her. You have to tell her at that point, I love you in the way that only a daughter could. As the converse of, you've got a face that only a mother could love.
And it's very odd, because it's like, she's also my adopted mother, so I have to sit there and like completely like, I love you because you adopted me, and I love you as my mother, but fuck this church you're in.
Yeah.
Fuck the fact you moved to Tempe, Arizona to be with this near this guy because you think he's the voice of God. It just
Well, yeah, and especially like Steven Anderson. I mean, it's really hard to try to find empathy for him. It just really is. And
it is extremely difficult as just
and
very
so
difficult for me to find empathy for.
I take shit for those comments, but it's true. Like, I struggle with my humanism sometimes, and I think that you have to, if you're going to be watching these kinds of videos and be aware of these kinds of people, that it's going to change you, and it's going to be hard to keep that hope. But I still have hope. Like, I still hope that Matt, whether he stays a Christian or whether he stays a Baptist, I still hope that he gets over the hatred. I just hope it.
Skylar and I have kind of like a tagline on the digital fiction channel that some of you probably heard, but it's if you think it's simple, you probably don't understand it. And I think the cure.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
I think it's probably the cure for the play, groups like the NIFB. And the reason that I say that is because I really do think, probably like you do, Nock, that deep down, Brat Tao really, thinks he's doing right. Steven Anderson thinks he's doing right. He thinks he's doing what the Lord would have him to do. But the reason that that's problematic for just one of the reasons that it's problematic is that it's based on this idea that they have the final word, right? They know what is true. They have the answer. And it's interesting to me because I grew up in a denomination that's actually based out of Grand Rapids.
Really?
It's called the Grace Gospel Fellowship. And it's a mid-acts dispensationalist group, if that means anything to anybody. But the fact that we have such a specific type of sub Christianity, tells you something about it. And there's a joke that we used to tell about this denomination, and you can plug and play. You can plug the NIFB in here as well. There are two guys. One's standing on a bridge and looking up at a starry sky, and this other guy walks up and he says, "Isn't it amazing what God can do?" And the guy on the bridge looks at him and says, "Are you a Christian?" He says, "Yeah, I am." And so they shake hands. I am too. So they start walking along the bridge, and he says, "Let me ask you a question. Do you believe that are you a dispensationalist, or you believe in covenant theology?" And the guy says, "Well, actually, I'm a dispensationalist." He says, "Me too." And they hug each other. And they walk a little further, and they say, "Are you an Acts 2 dispensationalist, or do you believe in like an Acts 9 position?" He says, "Well, oddly enough, I'm an Acts 9 dispensationalist." He said, "Really? Me too. What are the odds?" And so they exchanged phone numbers, set up a time for their kids to get together and play. They take a few more steps, and the guy says, "So let me ask you, do you believe the 12 apostles were in the body of Christ or out of the body of Christ?" He says, "Well, I think they were in." He says, "You heretic," and he pushes him off the bridge. I think is exactly what I see. And like, I just watched a Ben the Baptist video. Yeah.
Oh, he's crazy. He's crazy.
I think I have an image that explains exactly the thought process.
Yeah.
I think this is exactly the thought process here.
Yep.
Just.
Yep.
He this video that he did was him ranting, I mean, very angrily against, I don't know the story, but somebody that used to be, I think what he said was his best friend. These were people that in the recent past were huddled up in their very restricted belief system, right? They agreed on everything, and they were in the trenches together. And then something changes. There's a difference of belief. Heretic. You're going to, well, I think he made the comment that maybe not everybody in that congregation now is going, that split congregation is going to hell. There could be some saved people there. And it's that mentality that we it's simple, right? And boy, if it's simple, you probably don't understand it.
All I gotta say
I'll go
is
on a
Ben the
polytheist
Baptist.
rant for that. That like among pagans, I think that Christians have this thing where you have to believe in God exactly the right fucking way. Whereas among polytheists, it's generally accepted that we're all like very different. And the believing in the right fucking way, it comes up in conversation, but it's not like as serious as it is among Christians. Like Christians take it really seriously. And with like among heathens, we'll get into arguments, but it's generally accepted. Like no one's gonna get into I've never seen it. I'm sure that it's happened before, but we don't get into an argument over whether or not the Norse gods or the Slavic gods are the real ones. Like this is not a thing that takes place between us. It's more we'll get into arguments over history. That's about as far as it goes. Like this whole thing about like that dispensationalism or an Acts 9 interpretation or whether or not Jesus owned his own clothes or some shit. Like these are things that Christians will get into huge fights about. Yeah. And among heathens, we're just like, why? No, it's more interesting for us to share our differences and have a reasonable conversation about them, with the understanding that, you know, either one of us could be right. Like that's more of the conversation that I see among pagans, and I think that's so much more healthy of an interaction.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that pushed me out of the Christian church and into my Native American spirituality when I first left Christianity was all the different denominations and the infighting. You know, like this group was better than that group. All of them hated the Catholics. You know, and I'm like, it's all rubbish. Whether it's true or not, you've done diluted it so much that you can't take it seriously. And so it's literally one of the things that pushed me out of Christianity was I would much rather just go back to my culture and worship my ancestors than this, you know, what is the odds that your interpretation of Jesus is right? You know, like one of them's, if he's real, one of them's got it right. How do you know yours is right? And so might as well just worship my ancestors. You know, and they had really good smudge and really fun ceremonies. So I thought it was interesting. I still smudge. I'm not gonna lie. I'm probably not going to keep this going on too long. I know it's probably, for me, it's almost dinner time. But I'm enjoying the conversation. This is a great conversation.
Everybody's silence for a moment.
Everybody, I was like,
nobody enjoyed this conversation at all.
I'm the only one here now.
I love this conversation. I was just in the middle of typing something because people in the chat.
Yeah, I'm so bad at my chat. Like I think I'm gonna talk to maybe the Daily Atheist. I need a sidekick, Dr. Josh, and you're taken. So I need somebody to help me look at my chats.
I'll tell you, being a sidekick, just as a, you know, to help you along with that, you know, if there's anybody out there watching, being a sidekick it's great. It's relaxing because you get to come on. You know, Skylar is exceptional, right? As a person to be for whom one can be a sidekick, because he's very personable and he can take the conversation as much as you want to let him take it. And so yeah, being a sidekick is great. Yeah, so if you want to be a sidekick, that's
yeah. I definitely need to come up with a better system of looking at my chat, and I thought having this other computer over here would help, but I don't even use it. I'm like, why did I buy this computer?
I'll be honest. The thing that I do that helps with that is because normally I have things set on multiple monitors, but sometimes I have them set on just one. Windows has that lovely thing where you can move something to the side and it'll make it take up half your screen.
Mm-hmm.
I just have you guys on one half of the screen and I have the chat on the other half of the screen.
That is definitely what I should. Yeah, I got to work with that. Yeah, I'm so stupid with computers.
Like I'm going to do that thing where I do a screen share real quick. Like this is literally how mine is set up right now.
Yeah.
Apparently it's yeah. It just shows. Why is it? Oh, it's Aaron. It's because you're not muted. I'm going through your mic. That's why it keeps refocusing on you over and over again. There we go.
The other thing.
That's what I need to do.
I enjoy being Suris' sidekick from time to time as well. It is very relaxing. It is very relaxing.
From time to time.
I don't like, you know, we don't do Hammered Out every week, But
only when literally the world is on fire.
Right.
Y'all need to start doing it at night so I can watch it live.
We used to do that. We used to do it at night, and then we moved it to midday.
But we did it at night 2 weeks ago. So
that was because it was supposed to be midday, and I made several mistakes.
We all made several mistakes. Mistakes were made. And but being the sidekick is a heck of a lot more fun because I don't have to worry about the fucking tech issues. I don't have to worry about all the other bullshit. I have to come on, banter, and look at the chat and be like, oh my god, there's craziness.
Oh yeah.
The one time I asked Ocean if he could handle the tech stuff, he was just a very firm no.
It's like it wasn't necessarily because I'm bad at tech stuff. It was because look, I'm pagan. Technology disagrees with me, and the other thing on top of that is I didn't have any of the fucking base files. I'd have to like create everything, and it was like an hour before we were supposed to go live, so it's just like you're not ready for fuck. But yeah, I was just I can't technology is.
I'm not.
And I say that as somebody who's built his own computer.
Yeah,
I'm not.
I'm not good at it either. I'm still figuring it all out, and I'm like, it's just a headache to me.
It's going to be even better whenever Google Hangouts like bites the dust.
Yeah, well, I think I'm gonna. Do you still use Zoom?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna start using sooner than later.
Zoom's easy.
Frustrated atheist is the same. Actually, a hipster. Fuck you. Go ahead.
Hey, frustrated Russ. I love you to death, but Ocean was a hipster before it was cool.
See, there you go.
And in regards
That's
to the
more
whole
accurate.
Sidekick thing, like I agree with. I think that Dr. Josh and Skylar, I think you're like the perfect team. The way that you guys interact, I think is perfect. I saw on your live stream, he said he's coming back soon. So he's going to be coming back soon?
Yeah. I think he said just had some stuff going on. And I think he he put something up on YouTube on the community tab, and he put something on his Patreon page. So if you're not a Patreon member of his, you probably want to,
Yeah. For
those of you watching, join up, support him, because then you get to see that message. So
I'm looking at Patreon right now. Several people have asked me to start looking at Patreon and doing Patreon, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to get serious about this thing, I guess.
I mean, the trick with Patreon, or really with any of this, is that if you're putting effort into something, anything at all, you will. It is almost a guarantee. You will put in more effort to it if you're getting paid to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing I got to do, because I've never actually. I've just let since I monetized the channel, I have not drawn off of the channel. I don't even think I set up my AdSense account to draw off the channel. So it's just like building up. So I actually need to do that. Like go in and get that out, set that stuff up. Yeah, because it is. I think it does add some incentive once you're getting paid to do something. You'll
be incentivized to increase your quality. You'll be incentivized to increase your rate. You'll be incentivized to do a lot of things. And one of my girlfriends just sent you money.
Oh,
there you go.
Thank you for the super chat. Yeah, that's the other thing I got to get better at, because I always miss super chats. And I'm going through the other day and I'm looking at all my super chats and I'm like, holy shit, I have not acknowledged any of these people. So I've just got to get better at it. And I'm going to, guys. I'm going to. I know my daughter's looking at me. She's like, feed me.
Feed me, Seymour.
Yeah. It's 6 o'clock. So it's time for dinner. I appreciate all of y'all coming on and having this just really open.
Thank you, Nock. It's been great.
This is what I want to do. Like I'm just so sick of talking to Jill and Sky Out and Praise and all those people, man. Like I want to talk to my people I can get along with, and I think that's what I'm going to really focus on.
I'm so glad that Jill was not on here, because I saw the thing where you were like 6 hours in and then Jill was like the apology. I was like,
Yeah. Well, I think he might be hid from the channel now. So I think he comes in on sock accounts. So,
But he doesn't come in on sock account. But he might come in a sock.
Yeah, he's not Sokka.
It took
Shots fired.
Or, well, they could have been fired, but we don't know if he's firing blanks.
I'm fairly certain with Jill, they gotta be blinks.
I would hope they are. I do not want him to breed.
He should not be reproducing.
I don't want to think of a child raised by Jill.
You know,
I don't want to think of that.
I don't ever want to know what Jill actually looks like. I really enjoy picturing Jill as retarded Albert Einstein, because that's the picture I see every time he comes up and talks to me. And I'm like, he's retarded Albert Einstein. He's just the stupid Albert Einstein. I don't want to know what he really looks like.
Quick thing with that word, it kind of bothers me.
Oh yeah,
I'm
supposed to not be using that word anymore. Self.
Well, something with the brain injury, it's just kind of like I hear that word and I'm just like,
yeah, I'm trying to get that word out of my vocabulary. I'm surprised.
It took me a solid year. I will be honest with you. Yeah. It took me a solid year to work that out of my vocabulary.
Like my audience,
I do internet gaming.
Read about it, and here I am saying it. You know?
I do competitive gaming on the internet. How often do you think that was in my vocabulary beforehand? Every other match is the answer.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like you don't even really think about it. It's just an adjective you use, but I've become really aware that it is a word that affects people, and so I'm trying not to say it. And Richard Madsen, no, I'm not. I really want to talk to you, but I went through my emails and like erased a lot of stuff, and I think I erased an email that you sent me. So send me another email, and we can set that up.
Right. Someone just said Jill's my boy in the chat.
Yeah, no, I saw that. I heard the word and I was like,
yeah. Sorry about that. My audience will tell you I went on a tirade about it not too long ago. Like I hate that word. And then they got on the Vegeta like Raging said don't use that word, and I'm like I'm talking about myself.
I just hear that word and I'm just like no.
Yeah, it's like I'm not gonna police. I'm personally not going to police somebody else's speech, but I do personally try not to use it just because I recognize that it has
all the
adverse effect.
You know, like one of the words.
If you're going to use it, you're going to use it, but I can't stop you. It's one of those words that.
Yeah. Well, no, I completely agree. Like it's one of the words I'm trying to get rid of. So hard though.
There's a word I'm trying to get rid of out of my vocabulary, and it's G-Man in reference to rational.
Yeah.
Like if I could make it to where those words are never like 3 to 4 words apart whenever I'm saying a sentence, then I'll be really happy.
I don't even see how G-Man still does what he does. I mean, because I've watched quite a bit of Dragnot's content on him now, and like Dragnot just literally kills him like over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, but for G-Man, it's persecution porn.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I think it's the same with Matt. Like I told you guys, he was texting me and yesterday he's trying to bait me. He doesn't want me to stop making videos on him. He really doesn't want me to stop. I think he gets some enjoyment out of it. I really do.
I mean, with some of the people I've noticed in the NIFB, if you make videos on them, like the bigger names that people know, if you make videos on them, they just kind of, it's almost like a masochistic pleasure they get.
They feed on it. And you know what? It's funny. It's funny because I can understand why they feed on it. Because if you've done any study into how cancer works, it makes perfect sense.
Mm.
Biggest thing I could say about cancer, the biggest thing I could say about cancer, and this is probably going to be like, people are going to be like, what? Is cancer victims, when they die, are one of the saddest things, but they also are one of the worst smelling, and it always makes a case where you deal with a cancer victim so much worse.
For context, she was a forensic scientist, so like cutting up, she knows how different dead bodies smell. Which is just, I've had to hear the entire dissertation of how different dead bodies smell.
You know, I've always wondered that, like, you know, I had an aunt who
They all smell very different. Just FYI, if you are a vegan, this is gonna sound weird. Vegans are almost like they're right there with like cancer patients on like just smell really bad.
It's the beans.
But then people with like a full junk food diet actually don't smell as bad, at least to me. I mean, all humans just smell really bad during decomp, but they don't smell as bad because all the preservatives. And I'm just like, it's a weird situation.
I wonder, like, because I had an aunt who died from cancer, and I had an uncle who died from cancer, and at least to me, it seemed like they did smell bad. But I just thought it was maybe like a psychological thing on my part. Like, you know, I didn't want to be there. The situation was uncomfortable. So I wasn't really sure if it was a real smell that I was smelling or if it was a fake, you know, it was just something in my head. You know.
No, cancer patients just smell the absolute worst. And then when you're dealing with a cancer patient who was murdered, it is one of the saddest things you ever have to deal with. But it's also like, you smell it and you're like, that person had cancer. And you can't even just sit there and go, oh no, they might have like this or that. And I was like, no, that person had cancer.
Wow, yeah.
It's so distinct.
That's crazy.
And then you can also smell like if somebody was trans and transitioning, they also have a different smell during decomp.
Wow.
I have to admit to having a very sensitive nose, so
you learn something new every day.
It's always very sad to deal with those cases because it's like, oh, this person.
Yeah. I hate cancer. I would hope that one day we could cure it, but I don't think it's.
I am sad that like my quip turned into this entire dark side of the conversation.
Yeah, you know, no, maybe this is a good moment to go feed your daughter out.
Yeah, I do have to get off here. She's looking at me like, Dad, no. I really like this conversation. Great conversation.
Wait, we're talking about decomposition.
Yeah. Great point to end and go make some dinner.
I'm gonna release a new fragrance. Decomposition. New cologne.
But what stage? Like what? The decomposing.
There's gonna be multiple perfumes in this brand. Don't worry.
Oh my god.
We'll be in touch over what the names of them are going to be.
Types of decomposition smells.
Right. And there needs to be a lot of different kinds of brands in this. So obviously there's a large project that we have ahead of us, Aaron.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Is this the stuff that you have to use for zombie cosplay at Dragon Con now?
I've already got Justin Bieber sponsoring.
Okay, look, I don't want to make the joke about how it's a dead career that's just getting reanimated over and over again, but dear Lord,
you caught it.
Yep. But we're here.
Yeah, man, you guys are funny. I really enjoyed this conversation. I thank you guys for coming on and hanging out with me.
Thank you.
I will be back on at 9:00, maybe 9:30. So anybody that wants to come in and hang out, we'll see how it works out. But yeah, thank you guys for coming on. Interesting conversation. Glad we finally got to talk a little bit about ancient aliens. I've been wanting to do that for a while. I think my audience actually thinks that if they were, at least some of the older members, if they watch some of my videos on it, might think that I actually believe in ancient aliens. So I really wanted to put it out there that I don't.
You don't?
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, okay.
You know, like I just have fun with Christians. So a lot of times when I'm talking to ancient aliens, I'm usually in reference, like I'm aiming it at specific people. So I'm just trolling.
At least we're not ending on the last conversation.
Yeah.
But you're getting dangerously close to bringing it back up.
I am not going to bring it back up.
I'm telling you, this perfume line's going to be great.
Yeah, like
reanimate your face.
We learned something new today. You know, cancer people smell worse.
don't do it, man.
No,
So
do it.
close.
Don't
Land
do
right.
it. We were there. I was just gonna say we need to figure out cologne. We need to figure out perfume. There needs to be different lines of this. So
we need to have one for all the Shantae fans. We need to have one line that's just the Roddy Tops line.
I don't get that joke, but okay.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. I don't know.
Oh man. Yeah, I love this shit.
And I mean, eventually one day I think I will get back into like forensic science, but I'm not going to be a lab scientist. I'm not going to put myself through that one anymore.
Shit.
Ruined like 6
Here,
good outfits.
this should help Ocean. This will help you understand. This is from the Shantae games. This is the character Roddy Tops.
Oh, okay.
She is a zombie.
I'm into it.
The joke. Boom.
Okay.
All right, guys. Yeah, my daughter's definitely wanting me now, so I am gonna get off here again. Thank you guys for coming in and hanging out, and thank you, Dr. Josh, for coming in and hanging out. Nice to meet you, Aaron, for the first time. Definitely like this little format. I want to get more atheists and people I can agree with talking to me. So
I see how I'm added on the end of it. More atheists and people I agree with.
Yeah. More atheists and Ocean.
I mean, Ocean's just generally an agreeable.
You know, actually, Ocean, by classical theism logic, you are an atheist.
Get the fuck out of my house.
Yeah, or,
I'm just saying.
Bullshit.
It is my
Close to
belief
land
that,
the plane, man.
you know, one of my major beliefs is everybody's an atheist, really.
Oh my
Dr. Josh,
gosh.
what did you say?
Everybody's really an atheist.
No,
like-
what did Dr. Josh say?
I said you were so close to landing the aircraft. We hit go around again.
Oh,
Yeah, no. She's like, Dad, no. So yeah, I'm gonna get out of
I
here,
think your
guys.
daughter's like about to get like really hangry and like.
Yeah, she needs to
objects are going to come shooting out of the left side of the screen at Rage's face.
She doesn't know that it's gonna take an hour to cook. So, so yeah, I better get on that. So yeah, I'm gonna get out of here, guys. Thanks a lot. I'll see you
Thanks,
later.
Reg.